Why be entertaining when you can just be live?
Are
I've
we?
seen live streams that people would set up, and it would just be watching them sleep. Like they're hoping people will give them money while they're sleeping. I'm like, that is the laziest thing I've ever heard of.
And smart is $5.
Okay, we're live now.
Oh, dang
No, we were live when I was talking, but I mean we are
Oh,
live now.
well, I can't see like any live thing.
You have
I'm
to
just,
be on Twitch.
oh, dang. See, this is why I don't follow you on Twitch. I get. Actually, I do. So.
Oh, okay. Idiot.
I now subscribe to you on iTunes, so every time you put something up, I'm like, "Hey, breathe! I've never seen this." So like half the things, I'm like, "Hey, I'll listen to this," and the other half, I'm like, "I don't even know what that movie is because it's from India." Like, and I have no idea where to go because the Midwest is terrible with this. I have to drive like an hour and a half for those films.
Really?
I can't do that. Not because of money, because like you're like, oh, an hour and a half drive, that's not bad, and then like you get there and you're like, oh,
That's a long way, Matt.
I got another hour and a half to go back.
So, okay, I don't know if we have anybody in here. I might be on the wrong page. Anyway, I'll figure it out as we go.
It's more about the people who are listening with their headphones on the SoundCloud or seeing us via YouTube later on.
Yeah, I guess so, because nobody's really watching our Twitch streams, but...
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
the more Twitch gets into, not just video games, the more that will change. But for right now, this is just formality.
Yeah, the thing I always like to say is, you do it, you pretend that you're big. So, like, if you've got anything, you treat it as though, 1,000 people are watching, even if it's just one. Because then, when you get to the point that you have 1,000 people watching, your content isn't changing.
Yeah.
Now, content will change, obviously, but you can keep a same kind of quality at least. A very similar style of quality. So even that one person that is watching the stream is getting as good a quality as you can give at that moment.
Yeah.
Even if our quality sucks, at least it's the best we can do.
Sorry about that.
Well, I do blame you for a lot of it, but it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, Koricon Null is like a 9 or a 10, and like Nerd, because not like 60% of it I'm on, it drops to like a 6.
Yeah, I mean, you look at my first channel, and the ratings are through the roof. You look at the second channel, and it's like plummeting. I think it's the other talent I brought on.
Like, you just keep putting that redhead on. Like, gosh, get them all.
Damn gingers. All right, so let's get this started. We're going to talk about aliens. Now, me and Matt have seen this many a times. Matt, this guy down here. We've seen it many a times. Ian, though, for some god-awful reason, has never watched Aliens.
Well, this is like an Ian thing. Is he loves... I'm going to put this out there right now. Only week 2 of doing this. Ian is like, the first time I meet him, this is freshman year of college, he's like, I'm into science fiction. I love science fiction movies. And then... I'm like, okay, Ian has to love science fiction movies because he loves Star Wars and he loves a couple other and he loves Star Trek. And I start listing a bunch of other things I won't get into right now. But I'm like, holy cow, you haven't seen science fiction movies. Like, oh, but you actually have seen a lot more now.
Yeah, I've been slowly expanding. I didn't see a lot of movies like when I was in high school or anything. So, I mean, I came to love movies from like making videos and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been kind of like a transition over to appreciating more and more as we go on.
How long have you owned? Because you own it, right? You own Aliens.
Yeah.
How long have you owned it that you did not see it?
Probably. I think I got it the same time I got Alien, so that would have been like 2 years ago.
You've had the movie for 2 years and you haven't watched it.
Well, I will say, I mean, I can't judge Ian too much on this movie because I didn't see it till junior year of college, so 3-4 years ago.
Oh my god! When were you guys born?
92.
92.
I saw Aliens before you were born. I saw Aliens back in well, I mean, it came out in '86, but I think I saw it when I was an early teen, so it must have been like 1990.
See, I guess my dad was into those films, Alien and Aliens, but my mom hates those films, and so we just never had them around. We never really
Do you know why she hates them? What her reasoning would be?
Yeah. I mean, she's not a huge horror fan, and I think to her, an obvious reason, says Xenomorph is absolutely disgusting.
They're pretty terrifying.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah, I know. So in some ways, the movie does the job right, but so well that it just turns.
Well, the Alien franchise is not just a sci-fi. It's supposed to be a sci-fi horror. When the first movie got made, Ridley Scott, the reason he wanted to make it was he saw Star Wars, and he was like, "Oh, you can make a sci-fi movie that looks dirty." Because up to that point, all science fiction was very clean. Anything in the future was spotless. And the most popular at the time was 2001: Space Odyssey. I think you could go through that set with a white glove and not get anything on it. And then Star Wars comes out and everything's dirty and grungy and looks used. And so,
which I love.
Yeah, so that kind of blew Ridley Scott's mind. He was like, "Whoa, I can make it dirty." So he just took it to a whole other level and made them space truckers. And made a horror movie out of it. And so,
which is kind of funny because James Cameron got into the game of directing because of course he saw Star Wars and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I want to do this." I think he made Piranha and then he went to Terminator and then he did Aliens.
Wow, what a jump from Piranha to Terminator.
Yes.
He probably did Piranha and then it was like, "Okay, I can't do anything this bad again. I've got to do something else."
Yeah, he's like, "Let me just come up with my own idea." And then it's like, "Oh, it just so happens I have Stan Winston on my team. Look at what happens now."
And I got to say, because I watched it again today in preparation for this, and this is why I always say practical always looks better than CGI. And we're still not to the point where CGI looks good. You can get a lot of computer graphics that look really good, but it still will not match a physical, practical stunt or costume or set. These aliens from 1986, 35 years old or whatever it is, still look damn good.
Well, and the one thing is that I've noticed personally is especially with practical effects, it doesn't age. It always looks like the year it was made.
Mm-hmm. But if anything, you can tell the suit, you can tell the mechanics of it, but the textures of it still will always look real because it's physically there.
Yeah.
But just things like when they were coming out of the ceiling or out of the walls, it looked damn good even today. In today's standards, it looked better than the alien in some of the recent movies.
In Alien Covenant.
Yeah, it looked... Alien Covenant's a different kind of alien, but I mean the movement and the texture of it and all of that. The new Alien and Alien Covenant looked bland compared to these. And Stan Winston had so many... it wasn't just a dude in a suit. It was a dude in the suit, but they had all of these things that were moving on it. from things on the hands and in the mouth and the dripping, and then the way that they lit it. If you turn the brightness up on a scene with an alien in it, it looks a little weird. It needs to be lit darkly so that you're getting a lot of shadow in there and a lot of reflective surfaces. But it looks great even today.
That was something that I had read about when I was doing a little research about this movie. Apparently, James Cameron had to fire the first cinematographer on this movie because there were certain scenes where he wanted to light things really bright, like when they get to where the eggs are all stored by the queen. He wanted to add a lot of light, and he was like, no, it needs to be dark. You should hardly be able to see. You need to create this atmosphere, and apparently the cinematographer did not want to go along with that. So
yeah, and I don't understand why a cinematographer wouldn't. If a cinematographer was against that, especially after seeing Geiger's artwork, then he should not be on the movie. He should be fired. If he can't look at Geiger's artwork and not understand how that should be lit.
Especially after seeing Alien. Alien's a really like dark movie. Like, it doesn't make any sense to be like, in this one we're going to brighten it up a little bit so you can see everything. Like,
well, plus,
I'm really thinking a warmer color palette's going to help us out, guys.
Well, and that scene that you're talking about where she's down there with the queen and you have all of the eggs everywhere. She's about to light up a flamethrower that's going to light up the whole room. It's going to be bright in a second anyway. It's all going to be on fire.
See this how we're talking about that scene? It grosses me out every time. Seeing those eggs being laid and the part where the alien queen rips from the sack. I'm like, I was eating and I forgot about. I'm like, oh, I'm done. Can't eat.
To me, it always looked kind of like a jelly donut that exploded.
Ugh. It's not right, man.
Yeah, it is pretty, but it's supposed to be gross. Now,
so obvious. Oh, go on.
I was gonna say one of the things that I was reminded of, because I hadn't seen the movie in years. Now, when I was watching it, is how iconic James Horner's music was. You had themes in movies like in, again, Star Wars, where they blow up the Death Star in A New Hope, and you have the music builds up to a crescendo of the explosion. But this movie kind of takes it to another level, where it's like dun dun dun, dun, like the speed of the music increases as you're getting closer to whatever is going to happen, and then it's almost as if the music explodes in your face as whatever occurs. But the sound of the steel on steel in the music had such a huge impact. Just that simple clang sound, because it
especially
was so raw.
The beginning where Sigourney Weaver is having that dream or nightmare, and you start off the movie with a chest burster happening, which is insane looking.
Yeah.
Speaking of practical effects, one of the practical effects, I still don't understand how the hell they do it, really. I think it's a puppet, is when the alien queen rips Bishop in half, and you see him, half his body is there, and he's still moving around.
Yeah, that's a Stan Winston practical effect. What they did is they dug a hole in the ground, and so it's basically just Lance Hendrickson with his head and his arms, and then they spent, I think it was 4 or 6 hours of makeup with him. He's basically kind of sitting in a hole with his head and his arms out, and then Stan Winston builds the body, half body below his neck, and then they attach it to his face and they do all the prosthetics. But he's basically sitting in a hole that whole time. Yeah, it's crazy. And I remember seeing some behind the scenes on it a long time ago, because I'm a huge fan of Stan Winston. His creature effects, they'll always look good. Even some of his low budget movies, he funded a really low budget movie with Lance Hendrickson called Pumpkinhead. And it was like a, a cheap horror movie. A cheesy, cheap horror movie. But the bad guy, the Pumpkinhead monster, looked amazing. It was like the best looking cheap horror movie villain of all time. It's like, even his cheap movies, he goes above and beyond, and his creature effects were just amazing. Him with creature effects, the only person I guess I could compare him to these days for like the look of a creature would be Guillermo del Toro's Vision.
Mm-hmm.
Guillermo del Toro's monsters remind me a lot of Stan Winston's Vision as well. And then the other would be the makeup artist Rick Baker. Back in the day, he did a lot of horror movies. So if you watched a horror movie and it looked extremely disgusting, Rick Baker probably did that makeup. Put them both together, and I would probably lose my shit. Like I would have, I would be like, not even paying attention to the movie. I would be like analyzing every creature and makeup thing that they were doing. Just do a documentary on them. That's all I would really need to see. But the fact that there are people in the suit, you can kind of tell when they're walking around, but when they're just kind of moving, if they're in one spot, like on a wall or a ceiling or something, you would not know that there was a dude in the suit unless you were told.
I mean, you can tell, but I'd rather have a dude in the suit where, like, the suit at least looks really legit than, like, a very bland CG where they all look the exact same, like in Avengers, where all the, what are those things called? The
Chitauri?
Yeah, the Chitauri. They all look the same. They, obviously, even though this is, like, one of the best movies of all time, but, like, all the Lord of the Rings movies, like, you've heard of this, Ian. Like we're all like every single shield is completely different. Every single armor piece is different than one another.
Yeah,
and you can like tell. Like the same thing with this. Like the xenomorphs don't all look completely identical, and like they're all like there's just so much more movement with them than what was.
Well,
even
you can compare it to some of the performance capture stuff that they're doing today. Like in a way, what they did in Aliens was the old school version of performance capture, except the guys were in physical suits.
Yeah.
Today they wear dots on their face with a camera and a green screen or a gray suit with dots on it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so you look at the new Planet of the Apes trilogy. Andy Serkis and his team, what they did with the last two Planet of the Apes movies. You had a whole bunch of different actors playing different performance capture, and it makes every ape look different. Even though they kind of physically look different, you can tell that you have different actors moving each piece. Just like in Aliens, you have different actors, so they don't move exactly the same. They're not like computer animated clones where they're just they're not following what the other people are doing and just mirroring everything, or a computer program. Everybody's got their own unique little movement. Yeah, and also how much badassness was in there. Now I remember when I was a kid, they wouldn't do this anymore, but when I was a kid, they actually made toys for all these rated R movies.
I love that.
we had toys for Aliens. With the people with the big guns and the flamethrower. You could buy the Queen. You could buy the Queen alien in battle. We had toys for
then go see the movie and have nightmares for her.
Yeah, it was like we were getting toys for all these movies we couldn't watch. Like we had toys. We had toys for RoboCop. We had toys for Aliens.
Cartoons.
Yeah, we had cartoons for RoboCop. But they were made for. It seemed like they made the movie. Cameron was like, "I want toys." It's like, really, you've got cussing, explosions, robots getting torn in half. Kids possibly dying and in danger.
Families being massacred.
Yeah, you got stuff bursting out of chests, and you want to make toys out of this. All right, let's do it. But the some of it looks like it should be a toy. Like all of the Marines, they basically look like pumped up GI Joes. You know.
Oh my gosh, that's what we should do. A fan film GI Joe meets a Xenomorph and just has the Xenomorph like Rex, Snake Eyes, and a bunch of others.
But I really like Ridley as a strong female character. But in this movie, the badass was really Vasquez.
Yeah.
Like the look of this kind of shorter girl with big biceps. She had huge biceps. But holding this gun that was like the size of her.
She's got her Steadicam gun going.
It's a Steadicam.
It is. It's a Steadicam gun. It was
I wanted to ask you, Ian, what were your thoughts on like all the Marines or just the characters in this one?
I thought I really liked seeing Ripley again. I liked where they took her character as far as they kind of just built upon the last movie. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was also kind of nice that we didn't have to go back and retread as much stuff with her. Like once the other people start listening to her, she really steps up and starts to take control. I liked that we got different personalities for the Marines. I thought that I think it's Hicks who has all the funny lines.
That's
Hudson.
That's
See
Bill
the guy.
Paxton, rest in peace.
Hicks is the guy from Terminator.
Yeah, it's
Michael Biehn.
So I thought that was good. I as I went through it and thinking about it today, I was kind of thinking about it reminds me in some ways of Jurassic Park, as far as like the different characters. But I thought
they did do a good amount of characterization for side characters. Now you still had other side characters which were basically alien fodder. You know, you knew they were going to die.
You need some of those.
Yeah, you need a
but
bunch
I was
of them
glad that like going into it, I was expecting the Marines to be mostly alien fodder, and we did get a lot of that characterization. Where I feel like nowadays you really don't get that. In movies.
They like would last like all the movie, and there's like 20 of them, and literally the first encounter with them, like 80% of them are wiped out. There's like 4 left, and a corporate business guy who's like, I don't even know how to carry a gun.
Paul Reiser.
Yeah.
Playing the bad guy.
He actually does a very good job as the bad guy. And I was a bit surprised. I like him. I like his comedy half the time. I like his comedy. But for this movie, I was like, wow, I want to see him in more drama. And he did after that. And I think even they had an interview with him a long time ago that they asked him about it. And he said, yeah, I don't even know why they hired me for that job. But I tried to do my best. And I was like, you did a good job, dude.
Yeah.
He does something weird with his mouth where it's always opened a little. I don't know.
Well, a lot of people in this movie were like that. By the end of the movie, when Ripley was going through the factory, I was asking myself, her mouth is open all the time. For someone that's afraid of the face huggers, you would think she'd keep her mouth closed at least.
Dude, heavy breather. I would be, I'd be, out of my mind going down there. It's like, all right, we had 20 people with like Gatling guns, and they all got massacred, and now I'm going down to the lair by my own. Like, oh yeah, this is, and it always even though there was like 150 families down there, it was at the 157 families down there, but it just seemed like it just kept going and going, like how many xenomorphs, because they take out a lot. It's like, boy, Alien would have been
those the sentries,
the auto turrets,
the turrets. They both laid out like 500 bullets apiece and still didn't do much of a dent.
Yeah, and it just still kept going. It's like they were playing Nazi zombies, like Call of Duty, and it's just like keep going. They have all the souped up abilities, but they're like All right, I guess this is the wave that we just die.
Now I did like that part where Ripley starts putting the guns together. You know, when she decides she's gonna go get Newt, and she takes the flamethrower and then takes the gun, rocket, or grenade launcher and puts it on the side and then straps the sensor on it, and I'm like, oh yeah. Like she's basically got this like look on her face like, fuck it, I'm gonna kill everything, you know. Just wrap it around.
And
she didn't even have a steady cam.
Yeah, she didn't even need a steady cam. But yeah, I really liked that what you were saying, Ian, about how Ridley's character was pushed forward. There's too many times where you have sequels and they think they have to recreate the magic of the first movie. And what they do is they end up pushing the character back to a characterization from the beginning of the first movie to try and build them up again, or give them a problem that reverts their character to the way they were to try and recreate that growth. But then all you're doing is repeating the first movie. This one did feel like, if you watch the beginning of Alien, you know, she was very kind of shy and a bit meek.
She's also, they also like designed the movie where it doesn't seem like she's the main character in Alien.
No, they didn't.
Right.
It was supposed to be a surprise that she's the one that lives. But her character grows through Alien, goes from like this kind of more shy, you're like, man, she's gonna die, to surviving at the end because she just doesn't give up. And then with this one, she doesn't go backwards. You know, she's a little traumatized and having nightmares and stuff, but that first meeting with the Marines, she speaks up. She's like, you don't know what you're dealing with, like this, and it lays it out for him. And then when they get to that first battle, when that guy freezes up, she's like, again, she's got that kind of mentality that you grow of like, fuck it. She's like, fuck it, you're not doing anything. I'm just going to grab onto the car and go in there. And so her character just continued to grow until she became this like ultimate badass in the suit going, get away from her, you bitch. Like, if you watch Alien and Aliens back to back, she goes from shy and meek to stay away from her, you bitch. It's like,
I know,
it's great.
It's crazy. Back to the characterization of like the side characters. I think the one thing I like is like some of them actually have like legitimate arcs, which you don't really see in these types of movies. Like the obvious one being Bill Paxton, who, you know, goes in, he's like, we're like the ultimate badasses here. Like, we got sticks, we got knives, we got all this other stuff. Until like, game over, man, game over.
Yeah.
Like, it's
crazy. They did set up his character to be a little bit predictable, or pretty predictable, because he's got the, you know, from psychology, whenever somebody is flamboyant and over the top trying to prove how badass they are, usually they're scared on the inside and they're just talking it up, you know. The people you really want to watch out for are the quiet ones. The quiet ones, there's something there that you probably don't want to open that door, right? But the ones being really loud, they're trying to intimidate so that they don't have to get into that situation. And then when he gets into the situation and it falls apart and he's like, game over, man. Like, that's, you pretty much predicted that. You're like, yeah, I knew that would happen. But for him to come back at the end and basically become the badass that he was speaking up in the beginning, you know, and sacrifice, you know, dying at the end, that he did have an arc.
There was a lot of sacrificing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, on the flip side of that, you have the lieutenant guy who everyone makes fun of because he's, like, not experienced at all.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, he makes mistakes, but by the time that he dies, he's, like, sacrificing himself for the other people, and he's making smarter decisions. So you get that growth with him.
Yep. And Hicks has his arc, you know, but it was a smaller one. It was more of, like, the guy that is a soldier, you know, takes orders, does the normal soldier thing, to having to now be put in a position of power that he has to take control because he's next in line, and then
because every other person,
right, everyone else is dead or unconscious, but then he grabs a hold of that and does a very good job with it. So his arc is smaller, but you still see a good one. I think the only character that didn't have an arc, but I didn't mind, was Vasquez. She was badass from the beginning all the way through the end, and just the same consistent badass through the entire movie.
Yeah, the only thing that happens is when she sees her boyfriend die, which doesn't he like? Does he get like burnt up? I can't remember. Like he's almost making it to the door and then dies.
Yeah, he got hit with a bunch of acid. Now there's a There's a deleted scene. I don't think they even put in the special features where when they went back in, they found him on the wall, and that she tries to save him from the wall, and then he gets a chest burster.
Oh gosh!
But they didn't do it because they already did it earlier in the movie with the first person that they find, and she has it, and so repeating that, especially in a movie that's already 2.5 hours long, you don't want to repeat too many things. So they cut it out. But I seem to remember that because I thought it was weird that he was on the wall as well and survived all of the acid.
They also have that other scene where you see, like, Bill Paxton sees the sergeant's camera still working. And he's like, hey, the sergeant's still alive. And Ripley's like, he's already dead.
Yeah.
We can't save him. And I was just like, I feel sorry for those people. I'd rather have burnt up than, like, get snatched and have to suffer.
But, if the Sarge was a 9-year-old girl, Sigourney Weaver would have gone and saved him.
That is true. Well, and also at that point, Ripley's character was about never wanting to go there.
Yeah.
Like, because she was afraid of, seeing those things because, the moment she does take control because, the lieutenant, freezes, she's like, let's get the hell out of there. Like, her entire plan was, let's get the hell out of there, let's nuke the dang thing until, she has no other choice. And then she's like, or I have to face my fears and I have to, kick the crap out of these things otherwise, And which, obviously, one of my favorite parts is when actually Newt calls Ripley, like, her mom. And it's a really interesting moment. And, like, I know you didn't... I don't think this is in the theatrical part.
Right. So this is something we should mention. So Ian watched the theatrical release. And me and Matt watched the special edition. Now there's another 16 minutes on the special edition. Did they have in the theatrical, did they have the one where she had the meeting talking about her daughter and that her daughter had died?
They don't talk about. That's only in the special edition, I think.
Yes.
Okay, so that was one of the.
What I was reading.
Okay, then that's one of the reasons why I only watched it. I couldn't remember why I only watched the special edition. I think that was one of the reasons. Her relationship with Newt makes perfect sense if you don't have the daughter connection, because she's still motherly. Sigourney Weaver's character is very motherly, and so give her a child and she's going to be motherly.
And the first one, she's trying to save a cat. This one, a kid.
Yeah, but when Newt hugs her at the end and says, "Mommy," that was nice in the theatrical. But when you add that scene in the beginning that she had a daughter and her daughter had died and all of this stuff, and you can tell she's thinking about it throughout the whole movie, even if she doesn't talk about it that much. That payoff at the end was a lot more emotional.
Yeah.
For a scene that was 2 minutes? It was 2 minutes extra.
Yeah.
And it added a lot of emotion at the end.
Yeah, especially because
I still felt it.
What
did you? Did you cringe right here? Go. Did you do that?
I'm not gonna lie. That first
not
time,
as much as like you guys probably did, but it was still a pretty nice moment to have.
I was gonna riot if Hicks died because I was like, dude, Michael Biehn cannot die the second time. Like, he died in Terminator. It's like, come on, let him go to the end.
James Cameron's like, I like you, but not enough to put you in a sequel. And he's like, but I'm in a sequel. I'm in Aliens. Yeah, but you're not going to be in 3.
Yeah, he's actually right.
He is, but Cameron didn't have anything to do with that one.
Yeah.
But
apparently that Alien 3 really made him angry, and a lot of the people that were involved in Aliens.
Alien 3 is not a good movie, but it is an interesting film to analyze because of all of the stuff that went on in the background, in the pre-production and the principal photography, even the editing room. Like, there was so much stuff going on that I'm surprised they even came out with a movie. So for it to be as good as it is incredibly amazing. But yeah, one of the things they did right in the beginning, Hicks and Newt both dead.
And Bishop.
And Bishop. No. No, she ends up visiting Bishop out in the junkyard later on and turning him back on and getting some advice from him. But it's a short scene.
Bishop was another character that I really liked in this one because James Cameron really sort of like what's the word? He kind of puts Bishop up against the android from the first movie.
Yeah.
And so the whole time you're watching it, you're wondering, what's Bishop gonna do? Is he gonna betray them all like the other android did, or is he really in it for long? What?
Wasn't it Tom Skerritt that was the android?
No, there was Ian.
Was it Ian Holmes?
Holmes, yeah, Ian Holmes.
And so I thought that was interesting, and I liked that. In the end, Bishop gets like he's pivotal towards saving Ripley and Newt in the end, and so you see that she's able to understand that wasn't the way all androids are or whatever. But, which is kind of like silly outside the movie, but it's really touching in the film that, because that traumatized her in the first movie, so to have this be the opposite of that.
Kind of like a don't discriminate or, don't judge somebody by someone else's actions, but it does still, in the context of the film, it makes perfect sense. I mean, he is a robot, so it's like, why would I trust a robot? It's not another human.
Well, and that's they even play up that he might be bad when he's messing with the face hugger, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And then he's like, "Remarkable creature" or something, and he has that turn and look, and they film it like, okay, he might be planting this, and then it's just the corporate guy who
Paul Reiser's behind it all.
Yeah. then the corporate guy's the one who's scheming, which his scheme is crazy, where he's like, going to have the face huggers impregnate the kid and Ripley,
so that we can smuggle them in.
Yeah, like, what the hell? How was he going to... Like, that's the thing. Like, this guy must love money, because how is he going to accomplish this? Like when he... at the very end, when he's running away and he closed off the door, where is he going?
No, it's like all he sees is the next step, but he doesn't see anything beyond that. He's like, well, if I get the face hugger to impregnate her, and then he tries to get that done. But he doesn't think about, well, how do I get him to the ship? How do I fly it back? He doesn't think of anything else. It's just that one immediate step that he's got to go to.
Like, and the other thing is, why would you choose... So I guess his goal was, I think he knew the xenomorphs were like this, crazy powerful species, and he's like, all right, we're going to bring a bunch of Marines, good Marines, but we're going to have a lieutenant who's never had combat experience, so when they all die, we'll just blame it on the lieutenant. And then, smuggle Ripley and whoever else.
No, I don't think so. I think the original plan was for them to go in and capture some stuff. but they were overwhelmed. Because they mentioned
instantly.
Yeah.
Because the facehuggers were already in the tank, so theoretically all they had to do was put the tank on the ship, and they would have it.
Yeah. I think part of the whole thing with having that lieutenant that was not very skilled, hadn't been doing very much, is more of a sign of the company that they work for. You know, that they're not looking at experience. They're basically kind of like the government. You choose the cheapest labor. They feel like a lieutenant that doesn't have much experience will be easier to control. And so that's why they would put him into that situation. But Paul Reiser was really the one at fault for everybody getting killed in the first place. Because he had directed Newt's family to go and find the ship. Is that another thing that was not in the theatrical release? Was in the beginning where they showed Newt's family find the ship and then her family die before her eyes, kind of thing?
Correct. So that they show all of that in the special edition, but in the theatrical cut, they have the scene where Ripley uncovers that Paul Reiser sent the colonists in to investigate the ship after they knew that it was probably dangerous.
So, So I think that scene being added back in was good too, even though it did kind of pad the length, and I think it took away from some of the tone in the beginning of the movie, just because it was such a short scene that it shifted from what was going on with Sigourney Weaver to this little moment and then back again. And it was a little jarring, but the information that was in there I thought was better for Newt's character later on.
I mean, you got to get the girl who's also in the mother of Newt. She was also the foster mom of John Connor in T2. Got to get her in.
Another person Cameron likes to kill off.
She dies by the T-1000, and she dies to the Xenomorph.
She's got a great resume.
She now has to get killed by the Predator.
Yeah, I've been killed by all of the iconic horrors. Next year I'm gonna get killed by Pinhead. It'll be great.
Oh God. but Newt has to be. I don't know if she's ever gonna not be traumatized by this, because you have to think that she's seen almost all these people die in the most brutal ways possible.
Yeah.
Obviously, seeing her parents die. One of them getting a face hugger on their face, but I just could not imagine. And they do a great job because she doesn't speak for a while, and I think she does a fairly good job. She doesn't take away from the movie,
except in one thing. She screamed too much. I think she was screaming way too much. But when she was captured and Ridley was trying to find her with the sensor thing, and then she found out she's not wearing it anymore, when she screams, that tells her where she is. And it's okay, so at least there's a payoff for it. But before that, in the rest of the movie, she is screaming way too often, to where I'm oh my God, stop screaming. And it did remind me of you were saying about Jurassic Park. It reminded me of the girl in Jurassic Park. I could not stand her character because she was always screaming, and I'm shut the fuck up. There's dinosaurs around here. Stop making so much noise. Or
is it in Temple Doom? One of the characters always going, "Mr. Jones," and yelling.
Yeah, Short Round.
Yeah, but he was at least funny. At least he had humor on his side.
Fair, but
the girl from Jurassic Park knew how to use computers.
Yeah, but she also didn't know to turn the flashlight off when you're looking at a dinosaur that goes by motion, especially when her brother turns the flashlight off and tells her that specifically, so she turns it back on.
You gotta light it properly.
I wanted her to die so many times. I was like, if she lives through this movie, I'm never watching this again. I have. I still like Jurassic Park. But I every time I watch Jurassic Park, I'm like hoping for her to die. Like maybe they came out with a director's cut where she gets mauled by the raptors. Like,
the James Cameron cut.
They came out with a Moff Jared cut.
Maybe I should do like a Koricon cut of Jurassic Park. And there's like a 5-minute extended torture sequence as the raptors are playing with their food of this girl.
It's like a hand-drawn version of her.
Kind of like Weird Al Yankovic when he did the song for Jurassic Park, and he had the moment where the Tyrannosaurus Rex bit off Barney's head. In claymation, I would do something like that.
The one line I did like from New is when she's like, "Oh, it doesn't matter. They're all dead." I'm just like,
"Yep."
Gosh.
You're like, "Ugh, all right."
And then, of course, they all die. They did not last long. They did not last long.
Now, there were a lot of sound design in this movie that made it very unique. You know, and you don't get that too often. There's a lot of movies that either reuse the same sound effects or sound design or something at least similar, or they try to go more realistic. The gunfire in this movie...
Oh, yeah.
No other movie has that sound for the gunfire. It's very unique.
Not lasers, and it's not bullets.
It's like
a pulse rifle.
Yeah. And that if you hear that sound, you know exactly where it's from. You're like, aliens.
Yeah.
Like I can't even think. I was trying to think of another movie that I might have heard that before, and I can't think of one.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. No. I will say that the one thing I found weird, and maybe you guys also thought this, I thought the exterior of the ships looked a lot worse than the interiors of the ships.
Well, the technology that they used for, doing their overlays for the special effects, to get the composite. The technology for the composite really was using lighting. So you have to use lighting to draw out that one object, and then you put them in. But when you do that, the object looks a little brighter than everything else. And so you end up getting that when you have the ship movements and stuff. And you can tell, like you can totally see it.
Well, because like comparing it to like, of course, Star Wars, because it came out around the same time, the exteriors look just as flawless as the interiors. Like watching those scenes of them in space, it's just as seamless. Where like here, it's like they look almost like you can almost tell they look like toys or models. And then when you cut to the interior, it's like holy shit! Like everything is completely detailed. Like it's kind of
So you're saying the outside of the ship is not as detailed?
Yeah.
So like the model itself was, well, and if you do look at the ship, there's a lot of flat surfaces.
Are you talking about like the models themselves, like as far as like the lighting goes?
I guess it'd just be the model. Like just comparing the outside of the ship to the inside of the ship. The inside of the ship looks much better designed than, like, you can tell like each, they worked on each piece. When like looking at the Star Destroyers, the inside looks just as good as the outside. Like they construct everything. Where like these, I don't know, like I could just I can't tell that the Star Destroyers are models because how they shoot it, how they make, like they just look big. Everything's detailed. these just look kind of like toys, and they also kind of looked reused from Terminator because they look the exact same as the Skynet ships.
Now, that could be part of the reason. Maybe you're thinking about it. It may look like a model more because of the design of the ship is a little familiar from Terminator, and it was a very plain outside. Like you didn't have very much flash of anything. It was really a lot of just flat gray panels, and then and with the lighting being a little off with the composite, you can pretty much tell that it's a model. But they tried to also have a lot of large practical sets for them too, like when you see a ship come in camera, or the car. When they're driving the car, it's a real car that looks like that. So at least those scenes are not models.
Yeah.
They actually.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like one thing that the Star Wars designers use a lot is more of like the greeble, like texture things. So it's all these little things that you put on the outsides of things, where these designs are very sleek and more like up armored and military. The only time I really noticed, I think, was when one of the drop ships was coming in, and
through
you could
the clouds in the sky.
Maybe that, but there was one where it was like coming into land, and you could see it, and you were like, okay, that's a smaller model, and they cut to like the thing landing on the pad, and you're like, okay, that's a much bigger thing than what we just saw.
See, and that could be how they framed the model. The special effects guy and how they framed that model when they were moving the camera would give the illusion that not the proper illusion that they needed to make it feel bigger.
But that's like a limitation of just the technology.
Well, yeah, I'm not like, oh my god, it makes the movie warp, and I'm not like because it's only because one thing that they do that for some reason filmmakers did back then so much better than filmmakers today. Like when CGI, when you can tell looks bad, they'll show it constantly. Now or back then, like it's like seconds. You see it's probably like a total of like 20 seconds, maybe to a minute. You see the exterior of that stuff. Then you cut to the interior, and you're just like, you forget that you just saw like probably someone hooking up a wire to a ship and having it swing on something, and then then you just cut to like, oh yeah, I forgot, like this movie looks amazing. Like
they don't give your eyes enough time to focus on it. It's more subconscious. You're like, something was a bit off a minute ago, and I don't know what.
Like same thing with like the matte painting stuff. Like it'll cut to like Sigourney Weaver shooting the Alien Queen, which was a matte painting, and then it'll cut back to the real thing, and it'll do it so quick that you just never had time to really go like, oh, that looks terrible. We're like now. Kind of like any movie will just show the CG.
Yeah, they'll just embrace the bad scene.
Yeah, and it's just like, dude, please just cut. Please just it'll make it all better. But I appreciate that a lot more because like any movie's not going to be perfect. There's always going to be flaws, and it's how you get around those. And I think this movie. On the stuff, as you said, a limitation of technology, it did a pretty good job of trying to hide those. The only scene that's kind of funny to me, and these scenes somewhat occur in certain movies, is the scene where they're on the platform and it's like a wide shot of Newt and Ripley waiting for Bishop, and she's pissed off that he's not there. And it's like the rails like shaking, and it's like, and that's a backdrop. And like they're moving, but the backdrop ain't moving. And it's it reminds me of the scene from Terminator 2 where Arnold is driving and John Connor's like, how do you can you see? And he's like, I see everything. And it cuts back, and the car's moving, but the backdrop's not moving. I'm like, I miss this.
So I got a good question for you then. Now this has happened a lot in older movies where they had to adjust the film because a special effect was not working. Most famously would be Jaws.
Yeah.
You know, they got this expensive mechanical Jaws shark that they just could not get it to work. It just would not work on the day of the shoot. And so they had to kind of rewrite a lot of how they were going to do those scenes with just showing a fin or just having something bump, but you're not actually seeing the shark.
And now Spielberg seems like a genius.
Well, and he says, you know, even he has said in interviews, it made the movie better because it increased the suspense of not seeing the shark except for maybe 2 or 3 times in the entire film.
When you see that giant thing grab the one guy.
But that wouldn't happen today. Because today they would just shoot around it and be like, we'll fix it in post. Or we'll add the CG in later. So you're not getting that kind of almost desperation to make the scene work when you don't have all the materials.
I mean, part of it is, so I miss that time period where movies didn't cost, you know, 9 figures to make. Like, only the big blockbusters, because this movie cost $18 million and it made like $100 million, which is insane. Like, and that's an amazing profit. And like, the one thing, and like, not only has it made like $100 million, but it's spawned so much more. You know, it's continued a franchise. You know, like people
a line of kids' toys.
Yeah. McDonald's toys probably somewhere along the line. You can get your personal face hugger attached to some kid.
Yeah, get the queen alien. She'll like shit the chicken nuggets out of her ass for you on your. You just squeeze her butt and the chicken nuggets come out with the secret sauce already on there.
Oh God!
Ew! I just grossed myself out.
But like, you know, I miss that time period where, like, because they didn't just put so much money into it, like, you actually had to figure out stuff. You had to critically think on the spot a lot. You know, they like, you know, obviously, you know, with Star Wars, C-3PO, R2-D2, like, half the time never worked in the first one. And so, like, they had to shoot around that, you know. Even in, like, movies with, like, a bigger budget with practical effects, like, stuff happened all the time in Lord of the Rings, you know, like, and the Misty Mountain Hop, Led Zeppelin song. No, is it Misty Mountains?
What are you talking about, Matt?
The scene where, like, they're going up the mountain and they get hit by a bunch of snow.
Yeah.
So, like, half the actors were blind during that because they did it so many times that like, fake snow would get in their eyes. And, like, Frodo's eyes were just completely swollen and can hardly see anything. And so, like, they had to figure out, it's like, okay, we need to, like, do this real quick. Otherwise, our actors are blind for a while. And, you know, nowadays, as you said, Koricon, they just, you know, as we like to make fun of Ian and I, will fix it in post. And because a movie costs $200 million, I mean, you can literally do anything with that.
Yeah, and it's
and the thing that I hadn't known about this, but I had read an article. I don't remember which publication it was from, but someone had posted about how even with these large budgets, like sometimes, like I think Life of Pi was the example that they used after it won Best Visual Effects. Like within 3 days of it winning, either before or after, the company that did all the visual effects had to fold because they lost so much money on the movie because they were trying to do the movie so they could get other work, and so they did it at a loss and then they went bankrupt. So apparently there are situations like, and I don't know exactly which movies they happen on now, but there are movies where they have to just hire so many different companies and people to work on the effects because the amount of effect shots that you have now is like astronomical compared to what you used to have. So you're ending up with movies where people don't have the time or the budget to complete everything. Because I know that Matt and I have talked about how sometimes you'll see a movie that has a big budget, but things still don't look the way you expect a big budget movie to look. And I think part of that's probably trying to get everything done last minute.
Superman's mustache?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I guess one of the there's a lot of movies that companies end up hinging on its success. For Disney, it was twice. The first one was Jungle Book. Disney had sunk all of their money into Jungle Book. And if Jungle Book did not make a profit, Disney would have had to go bankrupt back in the 1940s. Luckily, it was a hit. The next one was the one that me and Matt did a week or two ago, which was The Black Cauldron. That movie, it didn't do well in the theater, and so the amount of loss that they had to take almost killed Disney. And they actually had to take some time off. Like, they had a couple of movies they finished, like The Great Mouse Detective and stuff, but then there was this dead spot in the late 80s where you might have a movie now and then, but not like every year, until Lion King revitalized everything. But because of The Black Cauldron, Disney had to be really careful and frugal with their money through the rest of the 80s, just because it had hurt them so much. So, like you were saying, Life of Pi, they sunk all their money into this movie. I'm surprised that they didn't get their money back, because the movie made a lot of money.
I don't think it was the production company. It was just the company that they hired to do the effects on it.
Wow.
So, kind of like how...
So they probably got like a certain amount of money up front.
Were they hoping for other jobs to take up the slack of that?
Yeah, so, I mean, in like Hollywood, you have like Industrial Light and Magic and Weta Workshops, which are like the big ones that everybody knows about. But I think the company that they used was a smaller company that was trying to gain prestige by doing a big project. And so the studio or the production company, somebody, said, we're going to give you this much to do it. And it was going to cost more than that to do the work. But they did the work anyway, hoping that, saying, hey, we did the visual effects here. Hey, we got awards for this movie. Can you give us some other work later on, because we've done this really good work? And they took so much of a loss off of it that they weren't able to recover by getting other projects.
Yeah, don't do that. Do smaller projects and take a little bit more time with it.
And I feel like that's something that really can't, unless you're just insane and you're trying to come up with like the biggest movie ever. But like that doesn't seem like it can happen with practical effects as much as possible, because there's only so much you can do with practical effects. It's not like you can't, like you're much more limited than you are with CG, because obviously CG, for instance, a good example is in BVS. Batman can do all these fighting stuff that Dark Knight and all those other Batmans can't do, because he doesn't have a cape on, and they CG'd his cape on while he's doing the fighting, and so none of that is hindering him. But it's like, is it really worth it? Because how much money did that cost when they could have just went, people like Dark Knight a lot, and he doesn't really fight a lot of people. We could just, put a cape on and make it more cinematic. And that's just with obviously with a lot of other movies. But I mean, I obviously would rather have smaller budgets for a lot of these movies, including obviously the superhero films, and just try to figure out ways to make certain superhero stuff practical. Obviously, you can't do that with everything.
Well, I don't think lowering the budget, the thing is, a filmmaker doesn't have to spend the entire budget. They just do. You know, a good filmmaker will come in under budget, like
Nolan.
Robert Rodriguez. Always comes in under. That's why they keep giving him all these projects, you know, and a lot of kids movies and stuff, is because he always comes in under budget, and then his movies make a lot of money. So studios are willing to trust him with whatever amount he wants because they know that he won't go over. I think more filmmakers need to not feel like they have to spend everything in their budget. That they should be like, you know, this would look better as a practical, even though it would not cost as much. So let's do that. I think for a lot of movies that are doing that these days, though, are the ones that don't have a lot of money, and they're kind of forced into that, like Deadpool or John Wick and things like that. They just didn't have a lot of money to begin with, and they had to figure out practical ways of doing that stuff. And it, like I always say, practical always looks better than CGI. And so...
and it's crazy because, like, more practical things are happening, and it's always funny because as they're happening, everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, it's amazing! Why don't more people do it?" It's like,
they have for a very long time.
yeah, like it's like, you know, Shape of Water. Like, gosh, that the design of the fish and the, you know, just the costume is insane.
Del Toro, man.
Yeah,
Guillermo del Toro. That's why Pan's Labyrinth and the Hellboy movies, you know, even Mimic. Even though it was like a smaller, like I was saying with earlier, not when we weren't on the stream, you know, or maybe I said it on the stream, but Stan Winston did Pumpkinhead. Pumpkinhead looked amazing, even though it was kind of a cheesy throwaway horror movie. Pumpkinhead was amazing. In Mimic, it was kind of that same thing where you saw Del Toro's vision in there. It just hadn't fully matured yet.
you remember when Wolverine's claws, they turned them CG in X Origins?
Yeah, it's the same movie that they sewed Deadpool's mouth shut and gave him laser eyes.
Why not?
And they made a Gambit that couldn't hold an accent. That was such a bad movie. I love Wolverine, but man, that was the only good thing in that movie was the beginning, where you got to see him and Sabretooth.
Yeah.
But after the beginning credits were over, that should have been the movie. Was what they did in the opening credits with him and Sabretooth. They should have just expanded that. That would have been like, I would have wanted the drama of them as when they were kids and kind of growing up and then going through all of these wars. I think that would have been a more intriguing story than the crap they came out with.
But back to
Aliens.
Yeah,
Aliens.
So the one this has to do with aliens. I mean, it just kind of has to do with the whole thing. So have you heard the thing that Ridley Scott said that Alien and Blade Runner are connected? Like, that universe is connected, and like, people have been trying to figure out how they're connected, and no one's still figured it out. And apparently it's in the movie. It's in one of the movies that connects the movies, but they are in the same universe. And
I have not heard that.
Yeah. First of all, Ridley Scott's an a-hole for doing this, and then being like, all will be explained in Prometheus, and nothing was explained. It was like, this is what happens when you get the writers are lost in your movie.
Well,
that does seem to be a trend.
I wouldn't be surprised if Ridley Scott did not have anything that connected Blade Runner and Alien, but just said it to see if people what kind of conspiracy theories they came up with. Just to just to troll the public. I think
he's like, all right, Blade Runner's becoming a cult following, and people already loved Alien. What if I just say they're both in the same universe? Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So, Aliens, whenever you make a list of the rare good sequel, Aliens is always on that list.
So I would say
Aliens, Empire Strikes Back, Terminator 2, you know, and
Two
then
Towers, Return,
but
Attack of the Clones.
I would add to that list now Blade Runner 2049.
I have not seen it yet, so
It's I think it's one of those rare sequels that are as good as the original. Some might say better, some might say worse, but for the most part, I would say it's around as good as the original.
it's always going to be worse for me because Harrison Ford ain't in it, like young Harrison Ford.
No, because time happened.
Yeah, that's my point.
He was still really good in the movie. Surprisingly. Because he's been phoning it in the past 5 to 10 years, and he brought his A game for 2049. And really, half of the movie is the gorgeous cinematography by Deakins.
Who finally got his Oscar.
Yeah, he finally got one.
Oh, and also practical effects in it with Bigatures by Weta.
Oh, amazing, right? Very little, if none, CG, yeah. His cinematography, though, his lighting scheme was so specific that when I saw it in 3D, I was getting pissed off at the 3D cameras because I felt like it was tinting the lighting. Now, I don't like 3D. I think it's a gimmick. A lot of times when I see... Yeah, sometimes... Well, it's because it's expensive. People aren't going to pay for it. It's more of a... it's a novelty. But sometimes I end up seeing a 3D movie just because the time slot fits. Like, I have to see it between these 1 or 2 hours because I have something else to do, and the only time I can see it is a 3D movie. And that's what happened with 2049. I was like, I'll survive. But then through the movie, I kept doing this because I was like, the lighting feels off the whole time. And it's because that slight tint that the 3D glasses give you. That his lighting scheme and cinematography was so specific that even the tint of a 3D glass threw it off. So when I saw it again in regular 2D, I was like, wow, it's amazing how detailed he got with his cinematography. Not very many movies can become not only that detailed, but that consistent. His lighting and cinematography was basically perfect through the whole film. And when I saw the movie, I think I even said it in my review when I reviewed it last year. I said, if this movie doesn't win Best Cinematography, then all of my theories of the Academy being, a conspiracy, all political, is true. Because there is no competition against this movie when it comes to cinematography this year.
I mean, I would still say it's fairly true. I mean, I'm happy that Shape of Water won. I mean, I'm not going to deny that I wanted Shape of Water to win when I saw it. And I'm happy it won. But, like, there's other years where, like, if you look back at some of the nominations of the Oscars, you're like, there's no way. There's no way that this movie got nominated. Like, obviously, the one that... It was like I think I told you about this, Ian, and Koricon, that there was a random speech that Jim Carrey gave, 1996 Oscars. I was like, okay, I'll watch it. Maybe it was funny. It wasn't. But he was nominating Best Cinematography, and it was, it was Braveheart and, like, a bunch of other things, and the last one was Batman Forever. I'm like, no. There had to be another movie in 95 that had better cinematography.
That someone else used a camera.
That happened this year with animated movies. You had
The Boss Baby.
You had Boss Baby nominated for Best Animated and not Lego Batman.
Lego Batman.
Yeah.
How did that happen? That had to be DreamWorks money or something.
I was so infuriated that Kubo did not win. What won? Zootopia over that? It's like, come on, give the nod to the movie that isn't funded by Disney.
Well, Zootopia though is different. Like, I can see why that one won, because it did a lot of stuff in that movie. That was hard to do for a kids animated film, to bring in all of this awareness on, discrimination and the culture of sexism and all, and still wrap it into a nice kids movie. It was pretty crazy. Now, Kubo is very good, I agree, but I think Zootopia, it winning didn't piss me off. It didn't bother me. I was like, it could have gone either way. But for Lego Batman to not even get nominated and Boss Baby gets in there, no, that's like saying Suicide Squad is Academy Award winning.
It is.
I know. It's
because it beat out Star Trek Beyond for
makeup,
hair and makeup. Which, I mean, you could say what you want about Star Trek movies, but the hair and makeup on Beyond was
good,
inspired.
It was very good.
Didn't Logan lose out to Get Out for original screenplay, which makes sense?
Yeah.
No, I think it was up for adapted.
Oh,
so
adapted.
It lost to
Adapted.
Call Me by Your Name.
Oh, fuck.
Oh well.
They should have gave it to Logan.
So what did you guys
throw Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart a bone?
They did not write it, Matt.
No, but I don't care. But they're like they're amazing together. Like what the like sure there's some
maybe
action.
at the People's Choice Award. MTV
I'm pretty sure that the
give
only
them the Nickelodeon surfboard.
Like those two are ever going to get an Oscar together is if like Logan's learning how to play the guitar and Patrick Stewart's like, Logan, you can't always learn how to play the guitar because someday you will have to learn. And people will be like, holy cow, this movie's amazing. And we'll all be like, what the fuck? Like, no, this ain't. This is mediocre.
Even your example there was mediocre.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, because there's years where, like, the best picture, I'm like, why? Why did this win?
Political. It's all political. It's whichever studio spent the most money to promote it during the season. But like, going back to Aliens, what did you...
Which did not win an Oscar.
No. Did you read up on Blomkamp's idea, Neil Blomkamp's idea of doing another Alien movie? He wanted to do a sequel that came after Aliens and basically negated 4, 5, and 6.
You mean 3 on?
Yeah, 3, 4, and 5.
Well, I like that idea, except for, I mean, every single time that you want to buy, sometimes when you want to buy Alien or Aliens, they'll now do the whole quadrilogy thing. So that's still always going to exist. Just like how, Days of Future Past is like, yeah, you remember Last Stand? No, you don't. It still exists because you still get it, in the collection.
In the box set.
If you really want to get rid of it, you just burn all the copies.
No, but what I mean is that them trying to retcon and try and correct, a series like that, because they're going to be doing that with Halloween.
Yeah, I mean...
They're going in right after the first Halloween, and they're retconning everything else. I would have liked to see what Blomkamp would have come up with for a third Alien movie.
For me, I think Aliens end so well. Like, Ripley conquers her fears. She, has a daughter, presumably going to have a husband with Hicks.
And a butler.
Yeah.
Half a robot.
Half a butler.
Yeah. It ties up really well. Like, like, at first when you think, like, because Aliens came out 7 years after Alien, you're like, why the hell did they make a sequel to Alien? And then you watch it, you're like, oh, wow, like, because, there was the one aspect in Alien. There was a bunch of other eggs that were there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was that, like, and they did use that obviously, because they're like, oh yeah, we colonized that thing, and they're like, oh yeah, like on that, planet there was thousands of them or whatever.
Well, and yeah, Alien and Aliens do feel like a 2-movie self-contained story arc. Like you could end it at Aliens and Sigourney Weaver's character is happy and everything. But there is also room to make a third if it worked.
Well, and if you're going to do a third one, I think you just avoid Sigourney's character and just do it somewhere else. Me personally, whatever story they came up with, I would rather have them, whatever story it is, use the exact same story that they came up with and just make up their own creature. And then put their own creature into Alien 3, whatever their Alien 3 is, and just make that. Because I'd rather see more stuff today like Annihilation, where I'm going in and I have no idea what the hell I'm seeing, than, oh, it's another Alien movie or it's another Predator movie. Because I feel a lot more entertained. I'm also, at the edge of my seat, is this going to be good or is this going to be bad? I don't know. A good example is, a Marvel movie. When I go in there, I'm going to expect, 9 times out of 10, a 7 or 8. It's going to be good, but it's not going to be bad, and it's kind of has the same beats. When I went to go see Annihilation, I'm like,
don't really know what I'm going to
get. That's a good part. Oh, that could be bad. Oh, it's like you're like, really, there's some movies that you see where you're in the first 5 minutes and you're just like, holy shoot, this is an amazing movie. That happened for me with obviously Coup and the Two Strings. That also happened with Ip Man. But then there's some movies like Annihilation where I'm like,
is he going either way?
And then at the end I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I just saw.
Have you ever seen Memento?
No, I need to though.
That's going to be one of our movies that we watch. That's going to be my next one after Dread.
Okay. But yeah, I would rather see that because, I'm, I guess, an originalist in terms of I think I've got my fill of the alien world. I would like to see someone else kind of create something, because there is a YouTube series that actually stars Sigourney Weaver. It's Ujaya. I watched it. It's it's 20-minute short films, and it's 5 episodes. And one of them stars Sigourney Weaver, and it was came out 2 years ago, and it's its own sci-fi horror universe, and it was pretty cool. It was cool to see Sigourney Weaver in that realm. It was cool to see something different. It was a lower budget, but I really enjoyed what I saw, and I would just like to see stuff like that.
Now, do you have any negatives about Aliens? For me, it would be that the girl screamed too much, but at least it had a reason at the end, because that's how Sigourney Weaver finds her. But it is annoying through the rest of the movie where you're like, okay, stop screaming so much. But other than that, I think, from some characters doing stupid things, but that's about it. I mean, the rest of the movie I loved.
Yeah, the story I love Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. I mean, she's amazing in this role.
I wish Vasquez would have survived so I could have a spin-off with just her.
Oh, Vasquez, yeah.
She's awesome.
I would say the only there's I guess 2 negatives. One, I wasn't a huge fan of the exterior models, which that's a really nerdy, trying to find something wrong with them. The exterior models were not up to par of 1986 models. But the other thing is, and this is kind of just more Sarge. I liked the Sarge.
You like the Sarge?
He was so happy to be in the Marines. Boy, was he wrong, though. Other than that, like, it's just an amazingly entertaining movie. Like, it has limbs being torn apart. It has, it's got the limb count all right. Like, it has the violence. It has the horror. It has more of aliens, which is obviously what you want. The tagline is perfect. This time it's war, and it's like, yeah, because this is literally an all-out war, and like you get what you get what you pay for.
So when the robot got torn in half, did you pass out with pleasure?
Actually, I mean, that's a huge... I mean, first of all, that's actually like a really big shock. It also doesn't make any sense at all. And James Cameron's talked about that before, about how he does stuff like that because, it's a movie and you can get away with stuff like that. If you try to explain everything, then people can figure out things that are wrong. For instance, there's no physical way that the alien could have got on the ship. Like, because the ship flies off and, like, the alien's, like, down. But you never see the alien hanging from anywhere.
No, they reference, or they try to at least show that it came in through the landing.
The landing gear.
The landing gear. So the landing gear was down and it got caught. And then that's the time that the alien had to get up there. And then you see the landing gear get pulled up and you see the outside of the ship and there's no alien. So they're suggesting she's in the landing gear. And then when you see the alien come out, it's coming out and down from the landing gear.
Well, that's a pretty big stretch. No.
Well, no, but
I'm just kidding.
The thing is, they're basically saying the landing gear has so much extra room in there it can hold a queen alien. That doesn't make sense because the ship's not that big. Yeah. And it's not going to have 3 or 4 times the size of the landing gear of empty space above it. But
they also would know if something that heavy was on their ship because it's like...
We have a balance problem right now.
Yeah, they're like, our back end is like really hanging. You want to go check that? Which you never say in a horror film.
Instead, you have Michael Biehn kind of wake out of his slumber and go, "No, it's me. I had an extra donut at lunch."
But yeah. In terms of Bishop being torn in half, I mean that's amazing. I'm pretty certain my favorite like kill / violent part is probably when like that one dude gets shot and he like turns around with a flamethrower and burns up that one guy and he gets like completely torched. I'm like, ooh, that looks like it hurt.
So Ian, do you have anything negative on the movie? That spits out at you?
I don't really have a lot of negative things about this movie. I think for me, I really enjoyed Alien when I saw it. So it was kind of, nowadays, since we're used to sequels like being exactly like the original, it's really different and kind of a little bit like takes you out of like your zone. You're like, oh, this is kind of different because it's not as like science-y and like slow and plotting. But it's Aliens was really good because it added that action, the James Cameron action to it. So you got more of like, so it was kind of weird because you'd be like, oh, I'm used to when there was one alien and everything was slow and going through, but this is fast and there's lots of aliens and there's lots of shooting, things blowing up, but you're like, but that's cool. It's just different. And then I think for me, since I really love Jurassic Park, so kind of being like, oh, there's a lot of similarities here. It's kind of, that doesn't take me out of the movie, but I was kind of like, this seems like something I've seen kind of before. But I really liked the characters. I liked seeing Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, doing lots of cool stuff. I thought the actress who played Newt did a really good job with that role because I feel like that's a really big gamble to have
7-year-old.
Yeah, being one of the leads in your movie, and I thought she did a good job. The production design, I liked. The other thing I liked was sort of the juxtaposition and the callbacks to Alien. You know, with Bishop and is he good? Is he bad? Kind of. And it was one thing that I noticed was like when Ripley goes back down, it reminded me of the ending of Alien when she's going through the ship to escape. And she doesn't know where the xenomorph is. But the way that they changed that up by having it be a more action-packed scene instead of like existential horror was really nice.
Yeah, it was impressive how, a lot of time when you have a sequel, if you try and change the genre, like for this one, they went from horror thriller to action. When you're changing a genre like that, your characters, their characterization or how the character is portrayed gets sacrificed for the genre. But Sigourney Weaver's character, Ripley, she didn't get sacrificed. Her character was not diminished because of the genre change. It was actually flourished. Her character grew even more. It's one of those rare times where changing the genre for the sequel actually helped boost her character even farther instead of making her character obsolete or negate anything that she had done in the previous movie. So it's a rare sequel, that's for sure.
So, before we rate, I would also like to. I would also like if you guys want to rate the first one as well, just to see like which one, because it is a preference. Like, do you like thriller horror? Do you like an action movie? Because they're both, in my book, amazing films, and it's a lot. And like, it's like, which one do you prefer more? So I just would like to see what you guys like more. So we'll start with Koricon.
The thing is, like with any movie where I have to compare movies, like have a favorite of something or do a top 10 list of whatever, I don't cross genres. So if someone wants to know what my favorite or horror movie thing is, I come up with horror movies that I like, but I don't really have favorites of things. I'm not going to compare Alien and Aliens because they're different genres. You can't say that an action movie is better than a horror movie and vice versa because they're different.
No, I mean I agree.
So
I mean, it's just more of which one do you prefer more, Alien or
doesn't matter to me.
Oh my gosh, well you can't.
Because they both have, but I like them for different reasons. So I can't.
No, yeah.
I can't look at the different reasons and say I like this different reason better than this one. It doesn't make sense.
I will say the one thing I really love about Alien that I've never really seen in a movie before, they spend an hour and 40 minutes or whatever literally just explaining what a xenomorph is, which I've never seen literally like a 2-hour biology movie on like how a creature functions and works. Like they literally go through everything, even its blood. And how it how it breeds and how it dies and how it comes back and all these other things. It's like, geez, like thank God Star Wars wasn't like this, otherwise it'd be like 50 films.
Yeah, they did dive deep into the how the creature works, and I did like that. What I liked about the first movie was, kind of the mystery. You don't know who's good or who's bad. Kind of like The Thing or Thing. And,
I was just going to say, I love the slow burn of the movie.
Yeah. And the horror aspect of not knowing where the alien is. I liked all of that. For this one, it's more of like grab your popcorn and let's go for an adrenaline ride. It's totally different. So, like, if I'm in a pissed off mood, if someone made me angry, then I would like Aliens more because I can, like, just watch some carnage and fun carnage. But if I'm, if I'm in more of a film mood, I would end up liking Alien more because I get more of a somatic storyline, something that has a slow burn, things that I can pick up small details instead of just going along for the ride. You have to think a little bit more with Alien.
So what would you give Aliens?
An A.
All right. I guess I'll go. We'll leave the person who did not, who this was their first time last. Not to like, it's not a pick on thing. It's just, yeah.
We already know what your rating is, Matt.
Well, yes, I know. Well, you do, not Ian. But
so what's your rating, Matt?
Well, first of all, I want to talk about Alien a little bit.
Okay.
I really, really enjoy Alien. I actually, I think I like watching Aliens more, but I think Alien is a better movie mainly because the parts that are supposed to be impactful are really impactful. Obviously, the chest burst scene is I freaking love. And just for that alone, like, I can say, like, an Alien, it's just, like, is amazing. I do appreciate that even though Aliens is, like, this, like, insane action movie, it actually has, like, character development, which most, like, action movies don't have. And so for that alone, like, I appreciate that. That being said, Aliens is an A+. The movie is, I mean, yeah. It's not even in my top 10, but, like, there's not many things I can go, what the hell's wrong with this movie? I mean, Aliens probably an A+ for me, too. Like, I guess the only side effect is, or the downside is, if you don't like slow movies, then, well, you probably don't like good horror films.
But, I guess I should give Aliens an A+ because the negatives that I point out are so minuscule. It's like me reaching and grabbing for something just to have something negative to say.
I've seen like Aliens like 20 times now, and
like, even though the girl screaming annoyed me, I still wanted her to survive. It's not like Jurassic Park where I was begging for her to get torn to pieces. I wanted the girl and Aliens to survive. So,
I mean, you gotta admit, a T-Rex, like, destroying a human body would have been amazing to see anyway.
I wanted her to get torn apart slowly by raptors. I wanted to see every little bite.
Well, there's that.
I wanted to torture her for like a good 5 or 10 minutes. But the girl in this one, I wanted to survive, And so even though the screaming was a little annoying, I can't really ding it too much because it didn't affect how I felt about the character. And then some of the smaller things, like we were talking about the lighting of the ship, some of the composite stuff, that's all really dependent on the time era. You just don't have the technology, and what they did with what they had was amazing. So I'll put it as an A+. I don't have any major flaws with the story or characters. I'm impressed by a lot of it, so A+. I'll go A+.
Ian?
Cool. I mean, I think I already said most of the things that I liked about Aliens, and even some of the things I liked about Alien, things that we already talked about. Kind of like the slow burn, the mystery element to it. I don't usually like horror movies, so I think that kind of says a lot about what I think about Alien for being so good, even compared to this movie.
Which I was really surprised that you're, like, the first pick for you was Aliens. I was like, oh, what's happened to Ian? Like 4 years ago? Nothing, like, no.
Yeah, so...
What about...
I mean, I think as far as this movie goes, I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. I mean, I really enjoyed the movie. I'm not used to like the sort of like action thing in this kind of way, but I think it's very well done, and just it's just an outstanding movie.
Great.
We're all in sync with this a little bit more than what we were at Annihilation.
Yeah.
I feel like the next couple of movies are going to be all over.
I don't know. I'm hoping for some prizes, some surprises. So, stay tuned next week. Hopefully, if we can do it, we'll stream on Thursday again. And we're trying to make it a regular thing. But comment below and let us know your thoughts on Aliens. What did you like? What did you not like? Is it enough to change your score like me, or would you keep it at the score that you originally thought?
Or have you never seen it before?
Have you never seen it before? Why are you listening to all of the spoiler information if you've not seen it before?
They wanted to see you.
I guess so. If you're on Twitch, we also have YouTube channels and the podcast on SoundCloud, and it's also available on Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and a bunch of other places that have grabbed the RSS feed. So pretty much anywhere, search for Koricon, you'll find it. And if you're on YouTube, check out Twitch and SoundCloud. And if you're on SoundCloud, check out Twitch and YouTube. I just cover all the bases.
There you go. Yeah.
And we got links to all of our stuff in the description below, so check that out. Like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends. And we will see you on the next video. Yeah.
They need.